media and culture. I don't know myself exactly what I'm about to see, but I'm very excited about it. I've got some sort of inklings, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm quite into tech and art is my background myself, so yeah, really excited to see what happens next today. So I'm going to welcome Simon and Myra from Bright Black over to here, and round of applause for them, please, from Bright Black.
You want to start from scratch? Alt F1.
Hi, we're Bright Black, and we create immersive artworks, music, fashion, VR, video games and printed media. Our work has been featured at the Tate Modern, in abandoned toilets in Arizona, toured around the UK and 36 other nations on 5 continents.
You're going to go down first.
Hi everyone. How you doing? Good? Yay. Good. I've got this because we're switching between multiple platforms and my brain's like a sieve, so I'm going to be following a little bit of running order here. That was made in Unity yesterday, and we are going to be showing you a bit of Unity and integrating some of your 3D models that were sent to us as well. And we're going to get you to make a character as well and use AI to rig and animate. So I'm Myra, this is Simon.
I'm Simon.
So we're Bright Black, and we are going to use plasticine today, and we're going to find some people.
You two have sat in the seats.
Oh, you found them already.
Okay. You didn't know what was going to happen, did you, when you arrived today? But what I'm going to give you is some plasticine. What you're going to do is make a character, 2 arms, 2 legs, head, just like any kind of humanoid character, and I want you to put them with their arms out like that and their legs apart, about this tall if you can, or as tall as you can. Yeah? So you can work away on that while we're talking, all right? Take that between you.
Cool, so they're going to make some sort of character that's totally down to them, as long as it's doing T-pose. And we'll see what comes out of that. In the meantime, we're going to talk about why we're doing what we're doing in the way we're doing it. We both have backgrounds in music, film, writing for episodic TV, and we have found ourselves, or sort of created a space in the immersive tech world where all of those things actually come together. And the reason is, this is where audiences are. And what we're seeing is lots of venues, lots of cultural spaces struggling to get people through their doors, especially after the pandemic, but also because everything costs so much right now. It's quite hard to live your life, let alone your cultural, sort of artistic life. So we are going to ask you guys a few questions via polls. So across all the colleges, to figure out where our audiences are and what they're doing. So, do you want to start with the first?
So people have to scan this Slido QR to take part.
Scan the code. I think I'm in the way.
And yeah, here's our first question. Oh, look at that.
Oh, I'm in the way. Can you see that?
Let's give you a moment to answer that. So this is, have you been to the theatre this year, 2025?
Oh, like live updating.
Wow. While we're doing this, I'm going to explain why we're asking these questions. In the last 10 years in particular, the last 5 years in particular actually, but in the last 10, 15, 20 years, the world has changed. In the world of culture and going to theatre and going to cinema and watching TV, all that kind of thing, the world has changed dramatically. You are all of an age where the internet's always been here. It hasn't been like that, right? So, and the internet and various other things has changed things dramatically. So when it comes to theatre, what we got, 75% haven't been to the theatre this year, 24%, 23%, it's changing as we talk. That is quite high. In the UK, in the last 15 years, the amount of people that go to theatre each year has been dropping at about 5% a year. And it was dropping from quite a low percentage already, okay? So when my grandfather was in his 30s, him and his wife, who were working class people, he was a lorry driver, used to go to the theatre probably 5-6 times a year. And now it's a very small amount of people that go to the theatre, and they tend to be from a very specific demographic. They tend to be people with money. So that's become quite a small amount of people. Let's move on to the next question.
Next.
So cinema, how about that?
Whoa. Some people are pretty quick off the mark on this,
Yeah.
aren't they?
So while you're filling that in, let me tell you about the stats for cinema. In 2011, when I made my first ever virtual reality game, video games worldwide were worth about 35 billion. Cinema was worth about 35 billion. Just before the pandemic, cinema was still worth 35 billion. It had actually been in decline at about 4% a year from 2010 on up to the pandemic, in terms of the amount of people that go. In the pandemic, it was a disaster for cinema, and it went from 35 billion in 2019 to 12 billion worldwide in 2021, and it's now hovering around 13 billion, something like that. So less than half the amount of people now go to the cinema than they did before the pandemic. So it's had a huge decline. You guys go quite a lot. It'd be interesting, in the room, put your hands up if what you go and see is mainly kind of like Marvel type things or superhero type things. Or let's ask the other way around. Who's been to see an indie film? Like a film where the budget's less than 200,000 or 500,000, something like that.
Not
Couple
that
of
many.
people. Who's been to see a Marvel movie in the last year? Only one.
Yeah, no, there's a few.
2. I can't see it all right. It tends to be now that cinema is predominantly that kind of Marvel superhero type thing. That's the biggest thing in cinema by far. Whereas when I was your age, indie cinema coming out of the UK was still quite big. It barely exists anymore. So that's a real big change, right? What have we got next?
What is next?
You can do this one.
Every night. Whoa. Have you watched Netflix every night this week? Wow, that is high.
So what's been happening?
So what's been happening is, I don't even know if anyone, say, in this room knows the term terrestrial TV. There is laughing.
I love the laugh. The word
laughing.
terrestrial TV is brilliant.
That's what we used to watch when we were young. I had a black and white TV with a little knob, like turn like that, and like 3 channels. I'm hiding my face with massive glasses. And obviously, that's pretty much gone. When we've travelled around the world, we have asked this question in different countries. And most people your age, or even probably 5 years older, might be watching terrestrial TV. So that's TV that is programmed, that is not on demand, with their mum and dad, maybe watching sports, the news, or maybe a detective program with the parents. So I can't remember what year it is, but a third of people, 2014, all in 1 year, stopped watching it completely. And obviously the shift has been towards streaming. So the global video streaming market is about $60 billion, which is a massive figure, but maybe not the figure that you think it is.
So think about this. So all video streaming, that's YouTube and everything, that's 60 billion. Cinema's about 12, 13 billion. For context, music worldwide is about 10 billion. Theatre is not billions, okay? So should we go to the next one? Who's played video games for more than 20 hours in the past 7 days?
Is it more than TV, is the question.
I didn't even see the last stats, if I'm honest, to have my back to it.
20 hours, yeah.
So what's been happening with video games? So in 2011, video games and cinema were worth the same. They were both were worth 35 billion. This year, cinema's worth about 13 billion and video games are worth about 300 billion. So video games now, and you're all quite young, right? So this is not that surprising to you. But when we're doing this kind of lecture in, say, like we work with Sydney Opera House and we're teaching the people who run Sydney Opera House about changes in culture and we tell them that's that, they kind of go quiet for about 10 minutes because they hadn't realized how much it's changed. The main way that people get their stories in 2025 is through video games. Cinema's like jazz.
Jazz.
It's like classical music, sort of over here. TV is kind of like that as well. TV's like, you know, it's quite niche over there. Video games, by far and away, is the most important cultural medium on the planet. Nothing compares. So why is that important? Well, let's talk about what we've been doing with video games first. So we could go back to our slideshow, 51%. That's about right? So in America, it's something like 63% play for more, 63% of people in the US play for more than 20 hours a week. 5% of people play for more than 48 hours a week, which is a full-time job. So I don't know what they're doing for work. Can we go to our presentation?
I think they're living their best life in a video game, probably.
They're wielding swords and being a hero and something, yeah.
Not sitting in a boring job, doing that slide.
That's it. So we're going to talk through a couple of examples really quickly. We're going to talk about some examples about how we're using video games to bring bigger audiences into galleries and so on and so forth.
So we've just finished this show called Those Who Hold Up the Sky, which is at a big warehouse venue in Manchester called Factory International. In the heart of the Industrial Revolution, they have redeveloped a massive area, and they are redeveloping massive areas of Manchester, which, as a lot of you might know, is real industrial heartlands. And now they've got all these shiny big buildings. It's happening in every city across the world. So we worked with 14 Greater Manchester residents. Some of them are artists, some of them are vulnerable people, and they wanted to make an artwork about their city. And they wanted it to be interactive and really inclusive. So we brought together what we've been doing for sort of 15, 20 years, which is blending the real space and the virtual space to create really meaningful experiences. So what we did was take over this big 7-story warehouse on a super low budget and time, and create like a massive graffiti area, all sort of masked by like washing lines, and so you have to fight through it all. We created a abandoned TV network where you can record your message to take over a sort of news network in green screen. And then we use loads of plasticine, see people's models, building right back up to this platform, which is a floating island in the sky of 6 video game units where you play through a virtual Manchester. The city starts off blank, a huge cavernous city, and then basically people's artwork from the graffiti, we capture them, make it massive on the side of skyscrapers. We put their 3D models in, we animate some of them and bring back to life some of the nightlife that's been lost in the city. And then, yeah, you sort of gather around this unit in these beautiful clouds made by a Brighton artist called Rebecca Archer, who helped us create those, or who created them.
So this was making a video game with the audience in real time. So while this exhibition was coming, thousands of people coming through, all doing things that change the video game that they then play straight away. So everything's the video game's updating about every 20 minutes from everything that everybody's doing. What about that one?
So before that, just to say, all our work is trying to think about how stories are going to evolve to include audiences, to include the thousands of people that come through. So the big cultural shift is towards video games, because you are no longer sitting and consuming content like a zombie, you are active in the world. So the way video games allow you to be the hero or the explorer, or increasingly, you know, a complicated character facing real world dilemmas, is really interesting. So my big show before this was called Somni, which is taking over a big warehouse, a multi-sensory kind of experience where you had a cast of live performers, sort of big live cast, and then like a punch drunk show, beautiful sets, but with bits of VR and AR over it. So you go into the real world, which is a map of your subconscious mind. You meet these characters that are actually AI, and they have spiritually transcended human beings, and they take you back through your subconscious mind into your dark soul. And
this is a show called Whilst Rest is Sleeping. So this was originally made in 2014. What was happening in the world at that point was that politics was getting really weird. I don't know how young you were at that time, but suddenly there was this sort of talk about post-truth and fake realities and stuff like that. So what this show did, this went to 36 countries around the world, all over Latin America, North America, Australia, all across Europe, everywhere basically, Africa and so on. And what this show did was tell a story that was fake, but the audience didn't know that. It told a story about a mass disappearance that didn't happen in America in 1959, but the way it told it was that I created all of the internet traffic, all of the Wikipedia pages, all of the websites that made it look real, and then performed on this. So this is Federation Square in Australia. This is where it launched, premiered. So on this stage was me playing electronic music on one side, there was a string quartet on the other side, and 8 performers on stage performing a feature-length film, documentary film live, which was based on the lives of 8 people that went missing in 1959. They didn't really go missing, I'm going to keep saying that, okay, because I keep forgetting as well. Whilst people are watching, they go online, just naturally, they're not told to. They find Wikipedia pages and they're like, oh my God, and they just keep digging into the story. Without realizing it, they're getting themselves embroiled in a game, which they think is real. In the rooms at the back, there were 17 virtual reality games in different rooms. There was augmented reality all over this square, so people could use their phones and find things in the square that would tell them more of the story, and all the stuff that was online. And then there was also, it's usual for artists to give talks. So when I was giving a talk, to the audience. This is the Australian Centre for the Moving Image there. I gave a talk about how when I was 13, I read this book called Mysteries of the World, and it had this story about this master's appearance, and it made me want to make a show. And then part way through the talk, I admit that I'm lying. And then we end up having a big debate. It got me in quite a lot of trouble. My bank accounts got investigated off the back of this show. It caused quite a lot of trouble because it was a big prank, and it went to a lot of places and kidded a lot of people. But it started a big debate about post-truth. This is a good point to see what you've created here.
Something has been born from nothing, which is actually amazing.
You were given the brief to make it terrifying, and you did a great job. Can I make it stand up? Right, I'm gonna scan this lying down. So
I feel like you should think of a name while we're doing this, because this has very much come to life.
What we're gonna do, and we're gonna do this quicker than we would usually do it. We're gonna attempt to 3D scan this. So this device that I'm holding here is a 3D scanner. You'll be able to see it on that screen there. You can see how it's picking up. I think it's going to scan everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll do it on that.
Where's my...
Let's if I can do it like this.
You're going to have to squash.
Let's see. Look at him, having a lovely sleep.
His head's going to fall.
Yeah, let's see if it'll pick it up there.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I'm still getting floor, but that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to point this 3D scanner at this. And what I'm going to attempt to do today is 3D scan this, rig it with a skeleton, and then bring it into the video game with some animations and so on.
Can I just ask here who's doing any games related courses or games courses? Okay. Has anyone come across a 3D scanner like this before? Yeah, okay. Cool.
So you can go on with the next thing while I try and deal with it.
So you can explain that a bit more then in a second. We can, where's your clicker? Here it is. So, what we have here is a massive, very bright screen, LED screen, okay? So we've sort of thought about how we're going to use this screen and bring that stuff together, okay? So, has anyone come across the term virtual production before? So, we were on a program with Epic Games, so Epic make like Fortnite, and they're absolutely massive now, because Fortnite is absolutely massive as a just place where things happen. I think it was Fortnite skins were like the biggest selling fashion brand on the planet. Don't know if it still are, but we learned all about virtual production, which is very new kind of use of video game engine. So the intro we showed you at the start was made in Unity games engine. There are two big games engines, Unreal and Unity. We use Unity because we can run it on low-end laptops, and Unreal is quite heavy to run. But basically, you create a world, which is what we're going to show you later. And you can see here, this backdrop here is made in a games engine. So, and it's uploaded onto a massive screen like this, but even bigger. So it's LED. So what's happening is you have a video screen backdrop. So whether you are in a desert, in space, in a jungle, whatever, you can create that in a games engine. And you can then have your cast here and some foreground set here. Maybe this is quite easy because it's like, let's make some mountains and then have some fake sand here. And then if you shoot this is so high definition, and if you apply the right sort of blur to it, it kind of looks very much like the backdrop. And it's giving out light. So instead of doing green screen, these cast members are being lit by the backdrop as well, which, if you have a massive film crew, like in The Mandalorian, lots of that was shot on VP, you're going to save so much money by building your desert in a games engine, going to a virtual production studio. Now there's loads, especially up north in this country, and shooting your whole cast there. And you can do amazing things like, instead of getting up at 3 a.m. and waiting for golden hour, you can just set the sun in the video game engine and just have it eternally and shoot eternally at sunset. So the lighting is super impressive. So if you think about how much post-production costs and how boring it is to green screen and do all that detail work, now you shoot and and you've got the lighting casting reflections on your performers, and you need to do like minimal work in post-production to make it look really realistic. So there's the Mandalorian, and what's that little Yoda called again? Oh yeah, I knew someone would know. And you can see why, or part of the reason why, the Mandalorian wears shiny clothes, because all the reflections, instead of adding them on in post-production, are coming from the lighting in the backdrop, which is super interesting for like shooting using CG. And there's another, oh look, it's so small. There's another example of like a desert sort of backdrop, Mandalorian in reflective stuff, and what you would get in the final pixel. So amazing leap forward where games engines and cinema are converging. You can also shoot feature-length films in games engines as well. So these things make it all possible for us to do massive cinematic storytelling when there's just one of us or just two of us. So the amount of large-scale stuff we can pull off because we use video game engines is just unheard of compared to if you're working on your own before. You can see here that there's a camera, and as they're filming, the backdrop's moving. That real-world camera is tracked. So it's got sensors on it that will track the camera in the virtual space, so it moves with the characters according to where they are. So directors can basically plan shots and stuff. This is how we hacked a version of BP with no money in the pandemic, which we streamed on Twitch. It's a show called Black Rabbit, and basically we wanted to take everything we learned from the Epic Games thing and do a really low-cost version, because it costs loads of money, hundreds of thousands of pounds to hire a virtual production studio. So we were like, this is really cool technology that can allow us to do loads of stuff. How can we use it? So we had two of us in the real world in like sort of like abandoned warehouse type spaces that were cheap in the pandemic. We had a fixed camera that filmed us and an LED screen, like a 55-inch normal TV screen behind us with a games backdrop animated, and then two screens here playing the same scene, which were casting light onto us. We're wearing shiny jackets, so you can see the reflections from those games scenes on us as well. So then we streamed that over Twitch and had it in the real world as well. And this is when we were able to use the big production park facility. We shot a music video. So we wanted to create a sort of old version, like Top of the Pops retro style thing. That backdrop I created in Unreal, and then we shot in front of it. And we were just trying to test the kind of capability. So what happens with new technology now especially is the big oversell. So it's like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can do everything, but you can't know until you test it. So we tested it to its limit, and it got about 10 times hotter than it is in here now. So don't explode the big computers. But we were like playing with Zoom and stuff, which is right on the edge of it. So
what you're seeing
you've
here
rigged.
is so we use, as you can imagine, for the last 2 years in particular, we're using AI all the time to speed things up. What I just did while Mo was talking before would have taken us probably 4 or 5 hours to do. What I did, forget the 3D scanning, that was already difficult 4 or 5 years ago. But in terms of taking this, digitizing it and putting a skeleton inside it so it can be animated, that was a big, horrible, painful job. It's one of those jobs that you put off because it's like threading a needle, it's awful. Now we use AI, so that means now we've got this character. It's not perfectly scanned because we've done this really quick, but you can see it can now move. And then what we can do is go to a mocap library. So this is owned by Adobe, who make Photoshop, this mocap library and the rigging platform. So we used AI to rig it, put the skeleton inside. And we're going to give it an idle animation because it's going to appear in a video in a minute, okay? So if I take, I don't know, we don't want it to be too idle.
No.
Or we could, I mean, that's spooky, isn't it?
There's a good orc.
But, I mean, we could have it doing backflips or something. But let's see if we get, put a backflip on there. So like that. There you go. There's your character that you made doing a backflip, right?
So
I'm going to
this
download that.
company has filmed actors wearing motion capture suits. Yeah, so they've got markers on them, and so they know where their joints are in space. And then that is data, basically. So we're downloading the data files, essentially, that we use to animate this really quickly.
So what's going to happen is we're going to take this to a computer over there that's got Unity Games Engine in it, and we're going to bring it into there. Let's just take that now.
Yeah, so the reason we're doing that is because we were trying to think of how we use this wicked screen here and show you a bit of virtual production. We are launching this new vinyl, which is a soundtrack from our metaverse show called 1,000 Conversations About Death. So we basically created a metaverse show, so it's held in a real world venue, so we did it in a massive church and we've done it in various places. You walk up the aisle, it's all candle lit, and then when you get onto the altar, there isn't a religious artifact, there is a massive screen and a big gaming chair. And you sit in it and you open up a big screen world or by a river. So beautiful water flowing, birds flying around. And then these two weird characters made in that way come up to you and they start to talk to you about your mortality. So they start to talk to you about what you're doing in this place, how long you're going to be there. And they're two characters. One is about to lose the other one. And it's a conversation about death. And what we were commissioned by Hospice UK, who's a big death and dying charity in the UK, to think of new ways to open up conversations about death when essentially we are in a part of the world that's sort of lost its death rituals and its death culture. Where my mum and dad are from, Mauritius, when someone passes away, they pray every day for 6 months. And this is a massive, elongated grieving process with family members and friends. And we sort of industrialized our death, really, and turned it into $1 billion industry. So we wanted to have really authentic, real conversations with people. And something very beautiful happened, which was we're operating these characters live in another room. And because people were in a virtual space, they're essentially anonymized. And they're talking to two characters that aren't human, and they really opened up, and they went very expansive about what death meant to them, about the loss of loved ones, and so forth. And we recorded what they said, edited it into a 45-minute electronic music soundtrack, which is what this is, and we performed it live. So we've now mixed and mastered that. So we're going to launch it on Instagram with your help. We're going to use this as a backdrop. So this is a sort of like hacked version of a VP setup. So the scene that is playing is made in Unity. We've got our guy here. And you can see the light flashing. You can already probably see that if I stand close to it, you'll see light reflecting on my face. That's how virtual production works. It's a backdrop and it's the lighting. So when Simon films me with the pack, showing it, it will look something like I'm in a mushroom world, hopefully. So we're going to test it out with your help.
But what we need to do first is we've got 3 different worlds we want to choose from. There's the character now in the world. You can see, right, that's really quick. We can do things super quick now, especially with the AI. We can make characters and it's not scanned, right? You can see it's got like bits of its legs together, but there it is. Yeah. But I'm going to show you 3 worlds. This one we're going to call Mushroom World. This one we're going to call Skull World, and this one we're going to call TV World. And there's various models in there that are made by people who are in these sessions today. So we're going to show you a poll in a minute where you can choose which one. So that's Mushroom World is number 1, Skull World, or TV World.
We'll find out who made those because Jim sent us some amazing models from students, so we'll tag them in the post. We got our poll.
Let's get a poll now, sorry.
That's right. So we're just getting the poll sorted so you can cast your vote.
Oh, where's the mouse?
Oh, it's on the screen probably.
Oh, there we go. So now. Come on.
Okay, so you can vote on that. Once we've got a vote, we're going to do the video shoot. And then while Myra does a little outro to you, I'm going to post that as our reel today on brightblack_productions on Instagram. And then later on, we'll incorporate it into a reel, a bit of a longer reel that explains the release. I mean, at the moment, I'm taking that as Mushroom World.
Yeah, I
think it's
thought
Mushroom World.
Yeah.
All right, so if we can go back to Unity and I'll set it up for the shoot.
You do Mushroom World then. So
I'm going to do this. Now I'm doing one more thing. So when we were talking about virtual production, we were talking about the video screen as a backdrop, but also as a source of light. So I'm going to put in an object in the world there that's catching the light way more. So I've literally just dropped a cube into the world. And that means when I film Myra, you'll see, I'm going to direct Myra a little bit here. Take your lanyard off.
Oh yeah.
So obviously stories are about 15 seconds long, so we want to do quite a short video. And we want to make sure that as much of that light is reflecting on her as possible when you see on this, because it's white, and on her glasses because they're shiny. I need to just set up so that we don't have any edges of the screen coming through.
My finger's ready.
And we're not doing any sound, so we're just going to record like this, and I'm going to give Myra a 1, 2, 3. Hold on, and
Slick. Let's be careful.
do you want to do one more?
Yeah. It's not
This
sliding.
is a mock-up because
It's a
the
mock-up.
actual vinyl hasn't arrived until tomorrow. So we've got it's all glued together.
Who knew acting could be
There's
so
actually
hard?
a Dean Martin record inside there, if anybody knows who Dean Martin is, from like the 1950s. Classic record.
Oh, it's a nightmare. Right, I'm gonna sort of like have it out. See, analog is just nightmare. Really.
So we'll do one more version,
Right.
and I'll check later to see which
right,
is best.
ready.
I want to get my...
Loosen it up.
Are you ready? And...
You can cut it there, I
good.
think. Yeah.
Okay. So while Mara talks,
Not
I'm
going
going to
back
post
in.
that.
So, yeah, one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you about games engines and show you how our work's evolved from like linear mediums like film is because we want to get audiences in, and we want to get more diverse audiences in. So as well as arts and cultures audiences really reducing, the diversity of those audiences is really reducing. Wealthier people, older people go to those venues that are massively funded by public money, which is like Arts Council money. Huge portions of it go to museums, opera houses, the big theatres. And a lot of indie artists aren't supported in that way, even though we are trying to create spaces for new audiences and for new things to happen. And if you are interested in sort of creating and being, having, if you've got small budgets and small teams, or it's just you on your own, the things you can do now by incorporating new digital tools. Some of them might be games engines, some of them might be 3D modeling tools. There's so many AI tools out there. It's incredible. You can create at scale, and you can create really beautiful things by thinking about different ways of combining those things, like what we showed you with Black Rabbit, the Twitch streaming show and stuff. And there's a massive skills gap in the UK, and the UK is quite far behind other countries like Canada and Australia. Like when we tour to those nations, their XR, like their immersive industries are really well supported. But here we have a huge skills gap, and that's also an opportunity because virtual production, when we were on that course a couple of years ago, the people running the virtual production bar, which is where they have all the game studio stuff set up, they're earning like over £1,000 a day, and their skills are only 6 months, or were only 6 months behind the tutors running that course. So who gets to be in the room? Because me and Simon learnt everything we know from YouTube. We learnt everything we know online, and then we fought our way into the rooms through, whatever, just trying to know people and contact people online and we still send thousands of emails out a year. And actually after the pandemic, we were getting, before you'd get like 10 responses from galleries and, venues and stuff, and now we get 1 or 2. And that's shocking, but it also makes us think we need to build the spaces of the future. That's why we're doing like metaverse shows, that's why we're going into like abandoned warehouses and all of that stuff. So we have lots of resources on our website, which is bright-black.org, which we can post on the chat. Hello. Transmission. And they're all free to download. You can get a worksheet for Unity. All the software we use is free. When we make electronic music, we use Reaper, it's free. We use free VSTs normally. Unity's free, Blender's free, and we just learn stuff as we go. And everything's changing all the time. The stuff that's possible now because of AI is outrageous. Like, we just, started writing code with ChatGPT, and now we're doing things that, big studios can do. So even if you're just starting, I had no software skills before. I absolutely didn't even know Photoshop. So, I've picked it up because it's much more like a canvas and a paintbrush than it is a technical interface. So if you're worried about technology or the technicality of things, it's becoming a lot more fluid, a lot more drag and drop and intuitive. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. So have we got time for questions? Does anyone want any questions? And if you've got questions in other campuses as well, let us know. We have Georgina monitoring the chat channel, so put your hand up or type your question in. But are there anyone here who has a question at all for Simon or Myra? Have a think if you've got a question. I'd love to make some observations. I'm really sort of blown away. I think there is a big three things. I think the creativity and the ideas. I think it's just really reassuring and kind of uplifting to see what you're doing. But then I think I've always had a bit of a thing for the kind of guerrilla punk DIY kind of mash it up, challenge the system vibe that you've got going on, which I love. But then I think the third thing is your sharing. You were just ending there saying it's all there, we've learnt, you can do this too. I just think that's immensely sort of empowering, so thank you so much. So do we have any questions, Georgina, from here and from other colleges?
We do have one from Braddock at Hastings.
Okay, so Hastings, can we hear you?
Braddock.
Are you there? If not, we can read out
Posted
your
on
question.
there.
Oh yeah, so let's have a look. What's the best software and hardware to start? And that's from Hastings.
Software and hardware?
Yes, you might need to talk, be near each other. Yeah.
I'll stand really close to Myra, uncomfortably
No,
close to
I'll
Myra. We use Unity
Yeah.
as a games engine, mainly because Unity and Unreal do exactly the same thing. You can create exactly the same results. There's a lot of marketing at the moment around Unreal because they made loads of money out of Fortnite, but they both do the same thing. The difference is if you install Unreal on most Macs or on lower end PCs, they will melt into your desk. Whereas Unity will run on a calculator if you need it to. Okay, so it's quite a good one to start, but you can transition between the two. They're essentially the same. In terms of like 3D modeling, we use Cinema 4D, but Blender is perfectly good, just as good, and is free. like free stuff's good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Free stuff's the best.
Is it
For-
GitHub? Is it you get from?
Use it a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to use it more. But for audio, we use something called Reaper. And we use it because it's really stable. When we're doing like live electronic music performances, it's really stable, and it's like $80 or something like that. And it's a community-driven bit of software, so it's a bit like Ableton in some senses, but it's constantly updating like Unity does and constantly getting better.
Thank you. Could you just name drop we've got from Bexhill, just name drop the Manchester project?
Oh
again
yeah,
for
it's
us?
called Those Who Hold Up the Sky.
Those Who Hold Up the Sky. Thank you.
And that was at a venue called Factory International, which is Aviva Studios, which is about a year old. It's a £250 million building. It's an amazing arts venue where they do kind of like big bands do their UK premieres there. But also the room we were in was like the size of a football pitch with a 7-story high ceiling. And so you can do really massive things in there with lots and lots of people.
Great. Any questions here? We have more questions. So we have a student here who's worked with you. This is in Varndine. Do you do work placements?
We have a work placement person with us today, Tom.
He's not here.
He's not here.
He's gone off
He
here
ran
to
away.
go. He actually had to go to lessons.
Fantastic. So the enlightenment
yeah.
continues.
We really want to offer more, so we are talking to a number of people to try and get those places funded, which means that you can do cool stuff. So we travel a lot. So what we'd love to do is offer like project-based stuff. So when we go up to like a place like Manchester, come see how the setup works, learn some of the methods we're using, some of the software. Working with people is a big part of our practice as well, so we always need help with that. And yeah, we are talking to a number of people to try and get funded places. So also we believe in paid internships. So
Fantastic.
that
And
would require
Myra,
that.
we have the platform for you as well. So as another strand to this project, which Zoe's going to come on and talk about in a minute, is a platform, and we'll be doing this with you, our students here, to actually kind of promote those to all of these young people in Sussex. So check that out in a minute. So what other questions have we got? So Ore Valley, with the decline of cinema and theatre since the pandemic, can you see these industries implementing interactive or VR elements in order to appeal to the young demographic? That's a great question. Yeah.
It's a really good question. I think the answer is rather that video games are expanding what they do to include people who used to be really into indie cinema, for example. So if anybody's played, everybody's gone to The Rapture, which was made in Brighton, which is essentially a very cinematic video game where you wander around. There's no shooting, no points, no levels, no nothing. It's just wandering around and a story emerges. Firewatch, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Firewatch. These are all, like, when I look at those games, 15 years before, I think they would have been movies.
Yeah, Kentucky Route Zero.
Yeah.
As well, isn't it? Yeah.
And a film like Firewatch, I think it was made by 5 people and it made $25 million profit in its first year. That's sort of unthinkable in music and in film now. In the 1960s, 70s, you'll hear all those stories of those bands in that time who, some young grebo who did heavy metal from Birmingham suddenly having a mansion house. That doesn't exist anymore, but it kind of exists in video games if you play your cards right.
Thank you. Any questions in the room? Just another check. Come on, any question? Okay, we have from Northbrook. What's your thoughts on an under 18 not having autonomous access to generative AI?
Personally, I think that's a real mistake. But it's a controversial area. It just so happens that we've been working for the last year with Cambridge University on ethics of AI and use of AI in the arts. And there were similar moral fears around the internet when that first came along. Some of that came to pass, but we know that the internet is an amazing tool. AI is an amazing tool, but AI isn't quite there yet. In about 3-4 years' time, we're going to have working quantum computers, and that's when you're going to really see the world change. And to be behind that curve, what we see when we're traveling, so we do shows all over the world, what we've seen is in countries that have quite bad economies, a lot of young people know how to use computers really, really well. Like, they're stealing all their software off Pirate Bay, learning how to use it on YouTube and then getting work with American companies and earning enough money to go to take themselves to university in wealthy countries. So I think I think also we should stop talking about young people's culture as if it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
People have been doing that for years. They did it when I was your age. You've got to have confidence that video games, your domain, the internet, video games, AI is the future. People who moan at you about it, just ignore them, okay?
I'm a parent of a 19-year-old, so I'll try and take that on board. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a really interesting question. I would add to that we shouldn't be thinking about it in binary terms anyway, like you are allowed access and you aren't. I think what we're trying to do with our residencies and AI is increase understanding so we can use it to do cool stuff.
I've got a question for you. So do you see, so you're a sort of a fleet-footed, light, agile, small outfit doing these projects. Do you see yourselves expanding, growing, getting more projects done, more people coming in?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's so much happening in this area. And I think we've sort of, we've been doing this for a while now. And we've taken, like, scale is the thing that people always go towards, like growth and keep growing, getting bigger and doing bigger and bigger stuff. We want to do more interesting things. We want to do more experimental things. And we want to actually be creative, not be in a hierarchical organization with egos, which actually makes you not get the best creative work. So it's actually more about, like, what's the most creative thing we can do? How can we, really change our approach to, like, art and creativity? How can we get, like, more, like, bigger audiences and more diverse audiences? But if that means we have to become a hierarchical, more corporate structure, then no.
Okay, I like that. No compromise. Quality, not quantity. Right, have we got any audio from any other? I'll come to you in a sec. So, have we got any audio from any of the other participants? I think we have one more question.
Colliers, I think, have a question.
Great, Colliers, can we hear you?
Speak. What was the biggest challenge you faced when starting up?
So, what was your hardest challenge
yeah.
when starting up? Thanks, Anna.
What are you going to say?
I was going to say, you do your bit first, then I'll.
He stood out of the spotlight.
He's actually physically removed himself.
Go, Myra.
Getting in the room. I think I've always struggled. I've worked across loads of. I've worked in creative agencies, film, TV, music, and it's always been like, why can't I get in the room? So make your own room, basically. That's why we ended up doing this, and maybe stop asking for permission to do it, and also, as Benjamin Zephaniah says, break the rules or the law at least once a day.
Fantastic.
My point is very similar, but recently, interestingly, the point I'm about to make got properly studied. So 40 years ago, about 23% of artists in the UK were from working class backgrounds. In 2025, that's 7%. So that's what, in the last 45 years, the changes that have happened in this country have led to a huge decline. And that, when I say working class, that's that big intersectional space that is all of us that have to work for a living, okay? 43% of artists are from the wealthiest families in the country. So the biggest challenge facing someone like me and someone like Myra is getting in the room. But that's quite fun, because it's a bit of a game to be a bit cheeky, do naughty things, don't play by the rules, and make sure that you create your own room and take it to put it bluntly, posh people can never be cool, right? So we make a really cool space and people come to us. That's what we do.
They're masking now.
Yeah.
They're pretending not to be. So, but yeah, have fun with it. Yeah, like actually, if people are not letting you be there, take that as license to be there on the way you want to, I would say.
Myra, Simon, thank you so much for coming and sharing this today. Absolutely blown away. And your everything you said there in the last 2 minutes, it's just, I just love it. Thank you so much. Hats off to you. Thank you. Okay, so Zoe's going to come up now and talk to you for a few minutes about another part of our project. I won't steal her thunder and pass over. Take the mic.
Certainly not posh. I'm definitely not as cool as you guys. Yeah, just that's fine. Yeah, I mean, wow, I am totally blown away by you guys, and I hope the fact that there wasn't many questions was that you were just absorbing it in, because that's certainly how I felt. And I'm sort of lost for words almost. So I'm here to talk to you about Landed. Oh, how do I flick the screens?
It's behind you. The clicker is behind you.
Oh, sorry, right, okay. I had one earlier. Yeah, okay, so Landed is a brand new job matching app. It's government funded, designed specifically for people in further education. So it's all about trying to find new opportunities, all about being in Sussex. So it's all for every one of these colleges, so all the ones that are partaking on the Teams call, and obviously all of you lot. For Basvic, you guys haven't had it rolled out yet. All the different colleges have been doing it at different times, so you'll be hearing about it all really soon. So it's over 50,000 learners that this is being rolled out to, and it's about having every opportunity. So it's work experience, volunteering, part-time jobs, apprenticeships, and careers, and you'll be able to find that all on one app. So it's a really great place, even while you're still studying. I'm sure lots of you still have sort of part-time jobs or need to get work experience. You'll be able to find that on the app. And some of the key features of it is that you can build your CV, and what that does is that, you build your profile, and then you can download that as a CV, or you can just apply directly to jobs with it. You can add your skills and qualifications, and an algorithm will match you to a local opportunity. You can find your personality types. There's a personality profiling tool on there. And once again, it's local, so it's all about local businesses. This is where the funding's come. It's about improving the skills in Sussex, and it's the same funding for this as this for this room and this event. So it's really exciting to see all this new technology coming along, and I feel like an app's pretty basic compared to all of this, and but still, it will be helpful. You can save all your favourite opportunities in one place, get notified, so if an employer shortlists you, invites you to an interview or rejects you, you get notified on the phone, and it just gives you an indication as to where you are on an application, because I think if anyone's done any job searching here, you know that you might not hear a single thing from an application. So it's a really good way just to sort of, you get kept in the loop. Every opportunity, as I said before, that's part-time work, apprenticeships. I know people in sixth forms are really thinking about that next level apprenticeship, and yeah, volunteering and careers. So if you just want to go straight into work afterwards too. And you can get support. So all app users attending college will be able to get career support through via their college through the app. So it's all on your phone. I'm sure everyone's got one in their pocket, so it's really all accessible. If you want to download it, feel free to scan it here. That will take you to the website. You can just search Landed Jobs, but Basvic and obviously all the other colleges will be spreading the word and telling you a bit more about it. But download it, register, explore. There's lots of great features. We've got about 300 opportunities on there at the moment, and that's going to just keep growing. So have a little look, and obviously when it comes to June, you'll hopefully get some more. Thank you. Here you go.
Thanks, Zoe. Okay, so this is, as I said, the sixth or the penultimate of the Festival of Careers. There's lots of other strands to this project, and just at the end, these are the two today that we've been hosting, Bright Black and Chris Hogg, this morning. So I just wanted to put a shout out to Janet and Effie Sussex, who's been leading all of this, actually in terms of the events, perhaps behind the scenes, but the person who's kind of made all of this happen, and it's phenomenal. So we're really, really grateful. So thank you. Okay, thanks very much for coming, everyone.